Hi, I'm Diane Gloystein, National Educator with Sulky of America. You're going to love today's project. Have you fallen in love with the raw edge garments that you see in the stores as I have? Well, today I think you'll love the project. It involves the raw edge look. So to begin with, you're going to need a few basic materials. We've got our favorite fabrics in our very favorite colors that we love to wear. Next, we need some of our first-class stabilizers. We've got Fabri-Solvy, a water-soluble stabilizer, and our brand new Sulky Sticky Fabri-Solvy. Then we need thread with great coverage. So I've got a 30-weight cotton thread that I'll be using in both the top and the bobbin of the sewing machine. And then we need a braid that we'll be stitching over. So I'll be using a 1/4-inch ribbon yarn. You could also use a pearl cotton. Next, we're going to begin cutting our fabric. So I'm going to go over here to the cutting table, and I'm going to lay my ruler on my fabrication at a perfect 45-degree angle and make that first cut. I'll simply move the ruler over 2 inches and make a second cut. Now I've got a 2-inch wide strip. I'll make subcuts in this, and now I've got my pile of 2-inch squares I'll be working with. So to begin with, we're going to mark where we want the placement of the silk dupioni squares to go. I've used a Sharpie pen. Let me talk you through a little bit about what the Sticky Fabri-Solvy looks like. Sticky Fabri-Solvy has a paper-like back, and then we've got the Sticky Fabri-Solvy product on the top of that backing. I'm going to be drawing on the Sticky Fabri-Solvy side. So I draw out my lines, keeping in mind that I want about 1 inch left in between the squares of the silk dupioni. Next, I'm going to get out my press mat, and I want it to be padded. I'm going to put a couple pins in the top to secure the small area that I'm working on. You'll love working with Sticky Fabri-Solvy in this manner because it makes it so easy. You no longer have to worry about it sticking to itself. So I'm going to lay the side that I've drawn face down on my press mat. I then pull away the paper backing, and I'm going to pull it all the way down so that I've got a nice area for which to work on. And in this small area, I'll begin laying out my squares of silk, one at a time. When this entire area has been laid out with my silk dupioni squares, I'm simply going to unpin the top pins, pull this up, keeping in mind that this is just a sample. You're going to have a long length of scarf you're working on, and pull down the paper area just a little bit further and continue laying out my silk squares. It's so easy. When your silk squares are in place on your Sticky Fabri-Solvy, we're going to lay down a piece of our Super-Solvy over the top of this. So I take either an 8-inch or 12-inch roll of Super-Solvy, and I lay it right on top of the Sticky Fabri-Solvy, and of course that will stick to the Sticky Fabri-Solvy. I simply trim it, and then I continue on my way, placing down more silk squares. The next step is that we're going to lay down 1/4-inch ribbon yarn. And I'm going to do that by satin stitching over it. I'll begin satin stitching around the exterior of the scarf. I set the machine up for a 0.3 length and a 4mm width. I'll be satin stitching over the cording, and I'll stitch all the way around the exterior, and then I'll be coming back double stitching over where I previously stitched, and now it's time to head down into the interior of the scarf. So again, you're double stitching over small portions of this. I'll double stitch over the exterior, come down through the interior of the scarf, double stitch again around the exterior, and come back once again through the interior until your entire scarf has been stitched. I've got a couple great tips to share that will make it so easy when you're doing the stitching on your waterfall scarf. To begin with, I've put the ribbon yarn on the knee lift of my sewing machine. That keeps the ribbon yarn in place and out of my way, and yet it very easily rolls off as I'm stitching. And the foot that I've got in has a small hole on it. Something along the lines of a braiding foot will work perfectly for you. This keeps the braid in place and right in front of your stitching. Next, I've got a titanium needle in, and this doesn't pick up any of the stickiness of your stabilizer, so you're going to love working with that gold titanium needle. Next, I'm going to begin stitching. Just stitch right down the middle, satin stitching right over the cording or the braid. We call this couching. It's so easy, and that's all there is to it. There's one last step, and this is where the magic occurs. It's time to take your water-soluble stabilizers with all of your fabulous squares stitched in place to the kitchen sink. We're going to leave it in the sink for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to come back and put pouring water onto the scarf. When the water itself quits foaming, I know that all of the water-soluble stabilizers have washed away. I dry it, I'll lightly press it, and my fabulous scarf is done. You're going to love this flirty, fun, fashion-forward scarf. It's great for gifts, and it's so much fun to make.